Mike White's American dark comedy TV drama The White Lotus has just released the highly anticipated finale of its third season, finally freeing the millions of viewers across the globe from the chokehold that it's had on us over the last 2 months. The White Lotus explores the hidden world of the wealthy elite, as the guests of the world-renowned resort unwind for a week on what's supposed to be a relaxing vacation, but instead devolves into a week of dysfunction, depravity, and most notably, death in the form of murder.
Go big or go home, right?
Oh my goddamn body bag.
Mike White and the show are notorious for exploring the themes of privilege, class, and the overall human condition through the writing of complex, quirky, and at times, yes, insufferable characters that captivate us as the audience, and this season was no exception. There's the gossipy girl trio, the antagonistic couple, and most arguably the stars of the show, the eccentric and erratic Ratliff family.
When we up in the club, all eyes on us.
Whose eldest son, Saxon, is played by none other than Patrick Schwarzenegger. Since Patrick Schwarzenegger himself is born of extreme wealth and privilege, being the son of infamous Austrian and American actor, businessman, and former politician Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Hasta la vista, baby.
The internet, in all its mighty wisdom, appears to have inflated Patrick's actual character with the character he plays, assuming that he's the entitled, sex-obsessed finance bro type that he plays on The White Lotus. And while I'm definitely all for criticizing the wealthy elite, as well as the poisonous web of nepotism, I fear we may have missed the mark on this one, and just want to talk about why. Hello everyone, welcome back to this little corner of the internet. If you're new here, well, hi, my name is Anishna, and it's so lovely to have you here. And if you're returning after what's been a long hiatus, I am so sorry. Well, hey bestie, how's it going? I hope you're doing well, and thank you for coming back. So before any of y'all run to the keys to comment, let's take a leaf out of the book of Buddhism and meditate on what I'm about to say. This is not an in defense of Patrick Schwarzenegger video. Like, yes, he could be exactly all the things that people are saying about him, but the truth is we just don't know. And as a result, to me anyway, Patrick Schwarzenegger acts as an incredibly interesting case study for this common pattern that keeps occurring in recent years of actors' personalities being equated with that of the villainous characters that they play, how the internet weaponizes aspects of social justice, in this case nepotism, to justify their unsolicited hate for someone, and finally, the superficial level at which we tend to discuss and critique nepotism, distracting us from the real arbiters of wealth and privilege. All of this is quite substantial subject matter that I could talk for hours and hours about, but let's stop right there because your girl is extremely time poor, hence why it's literally taken me 4 months to put out a new video, which I promise I'm trying not to make a common pattern. But because of this, I have given myself the challenge of keeping this, in the words of Sabrina Carpenter, short and sweet. We've got 20 minutes on the clock, and the time starts now. The character of Saxon is not so much a man as he is a walking masterclass in misplaced confidence.
It's not about the taste, it's about the pull.
Throughout the season, Saxon struts around the White Lotus in a perpetually horny and entitled daze, like he expects a round of applause for simply existing. Because, well, that's been his experience. Both his job and sense of purpose have been inherited from his father, who's an incredibly wealthy businessman.
Don't boast, Tracker.
Which grants him the illusion of being successful from the outside. But as another character in The White Lotus, Chelsea, rightfully points out,
You're soulless.
from the audience's perspective, Saxon is the epitome of a nepo baby. So insulated by nepotism that he mistakes confidence for competence, lives off a trust fund, and calls ambition. And to give him some credit, Saxon deep down seemed to sort of already know this.
My career's totally tied to yours, so if something bad is happening, it's happening to both of us. And I'll always be seen by everyone as Timothy Ratliff's son, and I'm okay with that. I don't have any interests. I don't have any hobbies. Okay, if I'm not a success, then I'm nothing. And I can't handle being nothing.
So it should be crystal clear from this description that Saxon is a character that we as the audience love to hate. An unequivocal villain, which is precisely why he is so entertaining to watch. Whether you want to believe it or not, psychological studies show that humans more often than not love, or at the very least are fascinated by villains, both fictional and real. There are a multitude of theories for this, and I think the one that would resonate the most with White Lotus fans is the idea of the shadow self. Popularized by Swiss psychiatrists, psychotherapists, and psychologists psychologist Carl Jung, the shadow self describes an alternate version of ourselves that we all have that possesses traits that are deemed unacceptable in society, and we therefore suppress as a result, such as rage, cruelty, and laziness. Consuming media with compelling villains enables us as the viewer to actually engage with these darker, less socially acceptable traits without actually having to indulge in them in real life. This is especially because most of us would like to consider ourselves good people, with positive traits like compassion, kindness, and empathy.
Well, you really don't have to do that.
I know. That's what makes me so nice.
This is what's known as the self-positivity bias, which is what makes seeing similarities between ourselves and a quote-unquote bad person uncomfortable and challenging. However, that problem dissipates when the character is fictional. A study by psychologists from Northwestern University that sought to explain why people are often attracted to fictional villains concluded that stories and fictional worlds can offer a safe haven for comparison to our darkest selves. When people feel safe, they are more interested in comparisons to negative characters that are similar to themselves in other respects. So we see Saxon's mom, Victoria Ratliff, self-medicating, probs.
It's had too much.
When have you taken my lorazepam?
You don't have enough lorazepam to get through 1 week at a wellness spa?
I don't even have my lorazepam. I'm gonna have to
Drink myself to sleep.
And find it amusing without feeling too threatened that she is exhibiting traits that we have probably possessed and even repressed from time to time. We watch Saxon in his desperate attempts to get laid and laugh without needing to acknowledge that we may have felt that very same rejection at some point in our lives. Because it's all fun and games when it isn't real, right? Not enough psychology, because at a fundamental level, villains are just so much more entertaining. Let's call a spade a spade. The Lion King would have been nothing without our sassy king Scar. You can't have Luke Skywalker without Darth Vader. The way villains are often written is so psychologically complex, and therefore more fascinating to explore. More often than not, we do resonate with their motivations, even if we disagree with their diabolical methods. And finally, while villains tend to have more traits that align with our shadow selves, they often also possess highly desirable traits like unparalleled amounts of charisma, confidence, power, and even humor. Like, my personal villain Roman Empire is Miss Yzma from The Emperor's New Groove.
Pull the lever, Crunk.
That's a baddie if I ever saw one. And so the very reasons that we love to watch villains are the very same reasons why actors love to play them. There's of course the more serious and professional reason of having the opportunity to challenge yourself and further develop your craft as an actor. And this is because it would be more demanding and stimulating of a task to tap into the motivations and emotions of a truly diabolical character than it would be to play a hero whose motivations and actions, while still complex, tend to be more relatable and accessible. And also, it's freaking fun! Like, you cannot tell me that Patrick Schwarzenegger and Parker Posey were not having the time of their damn lives on that set with some of the lines that they were saying.
What do I want? Pussy?
You want to live in Taiwan?
Like, I would have struggled to keep a straight face if I was on set with the Ratliff family. So why am I bringing this up? Well, my reasoning is twofold. One, love or hate Saxon, villains in the media incite intense emotions and reactions from their audience. Because more often than not, particularly the case with the White Lotus, it's subconsciously reflecting some of maybe our worst traits back to us, enabling us to experience what kind of world we would live in if we acted upon them. Particularly with Saxon, he does feel more squarely rooted in reality.
We all know a Saxon.
I even hosted a White Lotus murder mystery party for my 25th birthday a couple months back, and without even seeing this season, I basically wrote the quintessential Aussie version of Saxon as one of the character bios. And I think that's what makes it so easy for viewers to just assume that Patrick and Saxon are one and the same. He's so close to reality that it can be uncomfortable and challenging to not see him as, to some degree, being based on truth. Which brings me to my next point. 2, just because the actor plays a villain does not mean that they are one IRL.
Not really.
No, really.
And yes, I understand that while this is a pretty obvious point and should not need to be spelled out, judging by the level of hate that Patrick Schwarzenegger's gotten, apparently it's not. These actors could be terrible people, they could be great people, but for the most part, we just don't know. Sure, Patrick definitely shares some characteristics with the character that he plays, Saxon. They're both members of insanely wealthy families and are able to use their family connections to gain an advantage in their chosen profession. But if this is the only takeaway that people can muster monster from Patrick's performance.
Child.
In my opinion, it's just dismissive of what was a fantastic interpretation of this character archetype.
Saxon doesn't do drugs. No, I am the drug.
An actor shouldn't be punished for, well, great acting.
The cheek, the nerve, the gall, the audacity, and the gumption.
We witnessed a similar and arguably worse level of online hate and vitriol against Irish actor Jack Gleeson, who was only 19 years old when he played the truly wicked, arrogant, and sadistic boy king Joffrey Baratheon from Game of Thrones. Gleeson was so terrifying in his role that the actor received an onslaught of online hate, death threats, and shortly after his death on the TV show, Gleeson did take a long hiatus from acting. Though in interviews he hasn't directly attributed the bullying that he received from the internet for his hiatus from acting, I would not be surprised if it was one of the deciding factors. When a character plays a truly terrible and incomprehensible villain, it can be hard to comprehend how they even managed to pull it off. And while I am sure that they do draw from real life experiences and emotions, that doesn't mean that the actor embodies those characters' traits in their real lives. So while I think there's definitely an element of people being uncomfortable by realistic villains and what they present being a factor to the hate of Patrick Schwarzenegger, it definitely
Goes deeper than that.
So why do people hate Patrick Schwarzenegger and think that him and Saxon are one and the same? Well, maybe these two 15-second viral videos can shed some light on the situation. The first video is of Patrick telling his family that he booked the role of Saxon in the White Lotus. From the setting, we can see that he's on vacation, and everyone's crying tears of joy while his family congratulate him. While he is the son of one of the most famous actors in the world, Patrick's role as Saxon is essentially his breakout role into Hollywood. And he knew that when he got this news. Like, the influence of the White Lotus as a cornerstone of modern television simply cannot be underestimated. Up until now, Patrick really hasn't been cast in anything all that notable, besides, of course, the masterpiece that was Midnight Sun.
Some mistakes get made, that's alright, that's okay. You can think that you're in love when you're really just in.
Say what you want about this movie, I don't care. Haters come for me. I will bawl every time I watch this movie. The second video is from an interview with the White Lotus cast, where his other cast members are poking fun at Patrick for having 2 breakfasts in the morning.
We saw the chef from the Rose.
Oh, Giuseppe?
And then,
Of course he knows that.
My main takeaway from this video was the fact that Patrick is the only cast member that remembers the name of the man that cooked for these people for 7 months. Like, that alone to me was quite telling of the attitude of the rest of the cast members, but that's just me. The comments on these videos had a common theme, you might say, and that was that 1, Patrick is essentially his character, and 2, that he's a nepo baby. We discussed point number 1 a bit and will continue to do so, but I think it's about time that we delve into the nepo babiness of it all. Firstly, let's not get it twisted. Patrick Schwarzenegger 1000% benefits from nepotism. This is not up for debate. He's the son of one of the biggest actors in the world, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and is the great nephew of former US President John F. Kennedy, whose family, the Kennedys, are a prominent and influential American family with a long history in public service, business, and politics. So sure, with this context, the clips of his family learning that he got a role in the White Lotus while on vacation at a luxury resort is quite ironic and amusing. And yes, 2 breakfasts is 1 or 2 more than a lot of people can afford. But the fact that that's all it took, coupled with his performance, for people to incessantly vilify Patrick Schwarzenegger online does have me side-eyeing a little bit. Because, as I've already mentioned, the fact that Saxon and Patrick both come from extremely privileged backgrounds is essentially the only common characteristic that we actively know of
between these two.
This isn't to say that more common characteristics don't exist, it's simply to say that we don't know.
I don't know who this man is.
And while yes, we could clock in some serious hours trying to figure it out, my question to you then is, what is the point? Like, what does this actually do? And who does this actually benefit? Because while yes, there is definitely a conversation to be had about nepotism in Hollywood and arguably more influential spaces in society, this isn't the one we're having in relation to Patrick Schwarzenegger. In Instead, I would actually like to postulate that the very fact that Patrick Schwarzenegger is a nepo baby has given members of the general public a moral excuse to hate on him as hard as they are. And I don't know, it just feels unwarranted to me. To my knowledge, all this man has done to date, and do correct me if I'm wrong, is 1, play a villainous character so well that we all hate him for it, and 2, made some, while yes, ignorant comments about nepotism, also pretty vanilla ones as far as nepo baby scandals go. Since the existence of the internet, we have witnessed the weaponization of social justice to attack, bully, or silence someone that a certain group of people may not like for whatever reason, rather than advocating for tangible systemic change. I even found a thread on Reddit about this very phenomenon from 9 years ago, which shows that this situation is not new and probably isn't going anywhere in the near future. To illustrate my point, I'll give you an example from a video I recently watched from content creator and commentary channel Jordan Teresa that touches on the evolution of the phrase a pick me. The phrase a pick me, while it was never used in a positive way and was kind of always a negative phrase, was originally coined to call out women that perpetuated further misogyny solely for the purpose of validation from men. But now, thanks to the internet and all its almighty wisdom, it's used so flippantly that it's just essentially become the default way to disparage other women purely because you don't like them. Like, a girl will really be out here getting called a pick me for wearing a crop top. We are literally in the trenches. Which means that instead of a constructive conversation about the role women play in upholding patriarchy and misogyny, we're at the very least just ridiculing women we don't like, and at the very worst, perpetuating misogyny ourselves by criticizing other women for superficial reasons that have nothing to do with misogyny and everything to do with our personal gripes with them. And sure, the term pick me was never going to cite intellectual conversation about the harmful impacts of misogyny on women, but it was at least initially a mechanism for highlighting women's role in perpetuating misogyny. Now, this is only a minor illustrative example, but I'm hoping y'all see what I'm trying to say and hoping that it'll become clearer as we continue to discuss this. I do also want to caveat that while I'm particularly talking about the social justice space because it's what I'm most familiar with, I have
no doubt
that this happens in conservative corners of the internet. I just feel like it's important to critique our own shortcomings so we can improve and grow as a collective, especially in the current climate where it's now more important than ever to be collectively striving for tangible change and have a really clear focus on who the real perpetrators of wealth inequality and poverty are.
Remember who the real enemy is.
Wait a minute, hold on.
Because I also just feel like this counter argument is one that the internet is so quick to silence whenever anyone brings it up.
Were you silent? Or were you silenced?
Because when people like myself now try to express why the criticism of a particular person may not be the best use of advocacy or application of social justice, it's immediately perceived as siding with the oppressor and condoning their role in upholding systemic issues such as racism, sexism, and in this case, nepotism and class privilege. It's basically arguing that this behavior of spouting online hate is okay because the targeted person in question has some kind of privilege that we want to dismantle. And therefore, this person is an oppressor, or at least a large part of the systemic issue. And as per usual, it's just not that simple and a lot more nuanced than that. Nepotism at its core is one of the key components that function to perpetuate class disparity, wealth inequality, and poverty, and therefore is an important topic to discuss as it enables certain individuals to have an artificial advantage when it comes to getting a better education, a better job, and therefore continuing to have a disproportionately better quality of life than the majority of people. This is to say that nepotism, while an incredibly important discussion, is only one component of the fundamental issue that we're trying to address. That is class and wealth inequality, poverty, and privilege. But as I've discussed, like with the phrase pick me, I would argue that nepo baby has also almost completely lost all meaning, and we've almost lost track of why we were even having a conversation about nepotism in the first place. Like, somebody please explain to me why we are accusing British singer Lola Young of being a nepo baby because her aunt wrote the classic children's book The Gruffalo. Make it make sense. Like, we have truly lost the plot here.
It is whack
a doodle time.
And okay, I'll buy it. I'll entertain you. Maybe this connection could have assisted Lola if she decided to publish a book. And sure, I don't know how the industry works, so potentially her aunt did have loose connections to the music industry that Lola could leverage. But it's such a vague connection, with it being a completely different industry and not an immediate family member that she may not even be close to, we don't know.
That's surely.
The accusation of being a nepo baby is a bit of a reach. Which brings me to another thought that I've been having, Ari, this whole nepotism, nepo baby conversation. And that is that we've, in recent years, kind of been treating nepotism as a binary, i.e. either you have it or you don't. When it really should be discussed more so in a way that depicts nepotism as a spectrum. Because I think this distinction would make a huge difference in the conversations that we can have and how nepotism contributes to upholding class disparity. Because with a binary, we begin to see people like Lola Young as somebody who has disproportionate advantage, whereas a spectrum would indicate that yes, she definitely does have advantage, but it's not enough for her to be a key player in a conversation around nepotism. You know who does though? Tech billionaire Elon Musk. By consulting a spectrum, we can deduce that Musk does indeed have a hugely disproportionate advantage from his father being a wealthy investor, and I'm about to say allegedly because Elon Musk vehemently denies these claims, an emerald miner who gave Elon and his brother $28,000 to start their first software company, Zip2. And even if this is untrue, Elon Musk, the right-hand man of the current US president, has actively perpetuated nepotism in the past, hiring his 2 billionaire cousins to work at Twitter a couple years ago. Side note, y'all, I really do just want to stress how hard it has been for me to find information on Elon Musk's family and their wealth that wasn't incredibly elusive and full of caveats about it all being alleged. Like, this man is working overtime to keep his upbringing and family wealth private. So if my evidence is not entirely comprehensive, that is why. And I would love anyone who has any knowledge about Elon Musk's past to contribute in the comments below. Which brings me to my final point, which is that time and time again, we seem to lose sight of the true arbiters of wealth, class, and privilege when celebrities do something, or alternatively don't do something, that gets them caught in the crossfire of public debate. And the real culprits like Musk, they love that shit. Why? Well, it's a tale as old as time. Money talks, wealth whispers. The people who perpetuate nepotism, as well as the other influential components that maintain the status quo of mass poverty and wealth inequality, are rarely the ones who are actually criticized, as they go to great lengths to conceal themselves from public view. Like, I'll admit, if you asked me to name 10 billionaires, I could probably only name 5. And the 5 I would name would be the very public figures. Whereas if you show me photos of the other billionaires, I probably wouldn't even recognize them.
He could be walking down the street, I wouldn't know a thing.
And it's just more important now than ever that these people do not go unnoticed. Because I've said it throughout this video, and I will say it again for the people in the back, I am all for critiquing the wealthy elite and having discussions about the pitfalls of privilege. It is quite literally my favorite pastime. You can ask anyone I know. And I understand people's inclination to dislike Patrick Schwarzenegger. He does indeed benefit from nepotism and just played a role that is the epitome of hyper-masculine, entitled nepo baby. I just think that while you can hate the character of Saxon Ratliff, and should, you can do so without hating the actual character of Patrick Schwarzenegger. You don't even have to love Patrick Schwarzenegger. You can also just be indifferent. Again, let's take a leaf out of the book of Buddhism and practice some neutral chi.
There are options in fighting called jing. It's a choice of how you direct your energy.
There's positive jing when you're attacking and negative jing when you're retreating.
And neutral jing. When you do nothing. It involves listening and waiting for the right moment to strike.
You ate that.
I have been watching Avatar: The Last Airbender for the first time, and this TV show is genuinely mind-blowing and probably a video for another day. But by practicing this neutral chi, i.e. indifference, we can refocus our efforts on the real arbiters of the systemic issues that plague our society. And that is my time. If you made it to the end of this video, thank you so much for watching. It means more than you know. I hope in this short time that I was able to give you some food for thought, Ari, this whole Patrick Schwarzenegger hate, as well as just nepotism in general, as well as that fun little bit of psychology that we talked about when it comes to fictionalized villains. If you feel so inclined, please give this video a like, and feel free to leave a comment about anything I've said, as I would love to know your thoughts below. And even let me know what you thought of this season of The White Lotus. I know it was very divided amongst people as to whether they loved and hated it. Me personally, I'm still reeling from the finale. Let's talk about it further in the comments. Thank you so much, everyone, and I will see you in the next one.